Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Thomas. Welcome to episode 9 of the Digital Media Growth Podcast. Today I'm speaking to Margarita Kartanovic. Margarita is the head of insight at Binary District and the editor-in-chief of Binary District Journal. Binary District is a company that focuses on cutting-edge emerging technologies, particularly blockchain and AI. We talk about her work building and serving their audience, her research she's been undertaking, her advice for other publishers, and a lot more topics during this interview. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, Margarita. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Could you please start us off just by giving our listeners just a little background about yourself? Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, basically, I started as a linguist, and then it kind of spread around similar fields, PR and then journalism, and nowadays I'm almost completely swimming in the journalistic seas. Like around maybe 5 years ago, I got into blockchain and IT and all other new technologies that started piling up. And that's how I started my career in tech writing, so to say. At the same time, I'm doing my PhD in journalism at the University of Tampere in Finland. That's not related to tech writings, rather to global crisis reporting, how things are in the digital age in terms of quality of journalism and many other trends. So basically just trying to balance between work and studying.
I imagine that can be challenging to balance sometimes. Do you get many insights from your PhD work that actually help you on a practical level in your work in journalism?
I would say in terms of quality quite a lot, because that nowadays it's so easy to become a journalist, right? So of course, here we can debate whether bloggers or like anyone who thought, okay, so I have this website and I can cover some stories here, whether to consider that journalism or not. Well, if we kind of look at this from the scientific point of view, yeah, like more, or again, whether journalism is science or not. But anyway, if we look at this from the theoretical perspective, probably we wouldn't consider that journalism unless it kind of satisfies several criteria of journalism. For me, number one criteria is quality. Quality in journalism is something that is very honest in terms of how true things are, the way you say them, and whether you have any, hidden agenda in covering particular stories in a particular way. For example, probably like in crypto space, things are not particularly honest and not particular, so to say, journalism related. They're more, I would say, like that the news stories are more treated as a marketing tool. Media publications are created, again, to promote particular agenda or to manipulate the market and so forth. And that's kind of the things that I saw working at certain publications. I'm going to name them now. But I just had this idea that I will use my, so to say, journalistic ethics, and my knowledge of the theoretical sides of journalism in creating something new, something that wouldn't have any hidden agenda, would just have to speak to the masterminds of the technologies, like the brains behind the technology developers and researchers, because that's where the quality is. It's not translated through the mouths of marketing people, or even, like CEOs of the companies. It's rather people that create the technology sets and kind of have particular ideas inserted in this technology. So I would say that's kind of my perspective in the whole thing.
Tell me about Binary District. What is it? What is its history and who is it for?
Well, it started mostly as an initiative of research and developers to bring something different to tech event market. We were thinking that, well, technology might be not the easiest topic for the audience, Yeah, but we kind of need to adopt. We need to balance between making it hardcore, yeah, like a really hard tech talks, yeah, like the deep dives and so forth, and also keeping it interesting and appealing to the audience. And that's what we are doing with the number of our workshops and conferences and meetups. We wanted people to meet those people that develop technology. They want them kind of understand the kind of inner world of the technology. Also connect to those tech people with more like business thinking people and also with general public, and so that they could test their ideas, get feedback, and at the same time audience and businesses would get insight. That was our thoughts, our purposes that we had in mind. And Binary District Journal started as, in a way, a face of Binary District, yeah, particular kind of the first thing you approach that you can read through, scan through, and understand what this project is about. So for me, as a developer of this project, it was more like, okay, so here's our public space that should be understandable, that should have inserted all our missions in, all our ideas in. So if you, for example, look through how the journal is structured, yeah, you can see, okay, that we talk a lot about brains behind the innovations, right? So we talk to researchers and developers, and we keep in mind three types of audiences. First one is, of course, we have to talk to general public. That's why we have events and articles dedicated to general public, where we probably don't dive that deep, but still keep the conversation to the quality. Speak about trends, what technology is about, what's supposed to be, what kind of advantages it might give to businesses and other interested parties. Then we have another audience which is for decision makers. Again, this can be businesses, this can be anyone coming from the government and so forth, and like policymakers, for example. And the third one is the talent, because well, it's pretty much already well known and understood reality that we live in, that like there are not enough talents yet in tech, especially in new technologies. And the industry nowadays is booming. And for example, if you look at numbers, the market for new technologies is still growing and developing, while more traditional technologies, well, they're not stagnating, but they're kind of staying on the same level in terms of investments and development. We kind of wanted to look in a way into the future, and that's why we selected the cities to be based in, having sort of our campuses in, which are very future-oriented, with vibrant tech communities. That's why we first came to Amsterdam, then to Berlin and London, and recently we've opened an office in New York. And the next step for us would be to go to Singapore, kind of explore our local community there, creating more partnerships there. So I guess that's the basic idea.
So you broke down your audience into three categories: general public, decision makers, and talent. It sounds like it would be quite challenging to editorially to cover and properly serve those three parts of the audience. So how do you approach coming up with content that will resonate across these three groups? And is it a challenge?
I would say it was a challenge from the beginning. For maybe a couple of years, we've been just testing the articles, testing the feedback to those articles, looking at the metrics. Also, we were trying to see how we could benefit our events as well. Yeah, what kind of events we could create as well, so like that would combine with the journal audience as well. And it just happened so that after analyzing all the data that we accumulated in the last 2 years, it became just clear that probably the easiest way would be to divide the audience into three groups. And as also in terms of the education event, the next step for us would be developing educational courses, for example, boot camps, some workshops, a few days workshops or long-term courses. And the role of the journal here would be to directing the audience of the journal to become potential attendees of those courses In terms of the content as such, it turns out to be not that difficult, to create articles for just general public, so-called explorers or decision makers and talent seekers. It means that you need to talk to particular experts, right? So probably someone more, I don't know, like popular and more hyped in a way, for the explorers to get them interested. Someone more from the techie side for talent, and for decision makers coming from their personal, like, or business tasks. They need to understand what this technology can give to them in terms of contributing to their products or services that they're developing, or in terms of improving certain business processes within their companies. We kind of come through motivation, right? And each article is trying to appeal to particular or motivation of this particular group. If we speak about how it can look on the website as such, that's a bigger challenge. Probably you've noticed that so far our website is more like a blog, and we've been building a prototype for the next stage, and the next stage would be more interactive. It would have more features that would make life easier for our readers. And that's where it would be more visible for different types of audiences, what kind of content is for them, that kind of answers their particular motivation. I would say in terms of content, it's much easier to divide the people into categories rather than already kind of combining it with, web tools and designing some things, some sort of logic, or funnels or particular paths for different audiences. And that's what we have to work on with our developers.
Well, what do you think are the most important factors with this audience in engaging them and growing their loyalty over time?
Well, we have a bit of an interesting case as we are not only providing written content, we also have an opportunity to meet those people through our events and our educational initiatives. That's why if you speak about loyalty, I would say there are two stages. First, that they find our articles useful, if they would like to come back to our website and read certain things again, or they would like to share them, if they would like to subscribe to our newsletter, if they would like to follow us in our social media. That's kind of first stage. And the second stage, whether they are that interested, they're that trusting that they would come to our events. And the next stage would be, again, educational products that we've been creating for them and about to launch. So I would say it's the kind of loyalty that's kind of tested with particular actions, whether you sign up and come to the event in particular occasion. Most loyal readers, if they started as readers, if they would like to kind of commit to particular educational part within Binary District. We've been also thinking that probably it makes sense for us to create some kind of membership subscription framework for the audiences. That's, again, what we have been thinking about. Probably we can experiment and test some things, but you're completely right that engagement and loyalty are very important for us.
How do most of these readers find you in the first place? Are you very SEO driven, or where do they come to you in the first place?
As we are not only about a journal, right? So quite a lot of people find us through our partners, through our events, through our public activities. For example, we've been working closely with the Next Web in Amsterdam, and I'm moderating quite a lot of panels at the events, whether it is like Geek Conference that they have or Hard Fork Summit. We've been also active within universities, and we cooperate with a number of researchers, and would like to encourage them to also contribute to the journal. That's another part, one of the rubrics that we have and we've been trying to develop, where developers and researchers write their own articles based whether on their research, on some of their ideas that they've been thinking about. And we've been encouraging researchers to do that, as again, I have one foot in the academic world. I can see how close of the world it is. And sometimes when you want to suggest some ideas or you want to probably bring a bit of, real world into the academic world, that's challenging. That's why we wanted to offer the researchers a platform where they could express their ideas to the audiences that they can probably in the future benefit from if they, for example, take their research to the market and try to build a business out of it or sell it to some company. So they need to be visible. They need to talk about their ideas. They need to talk about their findings and other things related to their activities. Not only, traditional academic conferences and traditional academic journals. In a way, we want to be something in between, in between academic world and regular, more mainstream world. That's challenging, but I guess if we keep our quality and it's easier to take some steps into scaling it, again, in terms of search engine optimization, right, and social media promotion. I would say in terms of, again, public visibility, I tried something which is pretty common nowadays, syndications, right? Because our content of a good quality, it means that even mainstream media would like to have this kind of content because they might not have enough resources, and especially this is such a niche topic, new technologies and R&D. So that's why it's been pretty easy for us, for example, to join the syndication program of CNW. Also that we are partnering with them, it also makes things easier. Of course, brand awareness, yeah. For us, it's extra visibility, and we do have some part of their traffic to our website. Not ideally, probably, but still it works in this way as well. And the next stage would be to have more syndications. We've been testing waters with some other mainstream publications, and hopefully soon we can launch there as well.
What do you find most exciting about your work?
I would say, again, as I come also partially from the academic world, the most exciting thing for me is to encourage researchers to come out of their, comfort zone, something familiar, something slow and more traditional, into something a bit more challenging for them, like talking to people, talking to business people, to general public, trying to explain their ideas, explain their research and findings, because that's important, because there are so many good quality things that just stay unnoticed in the academic world. I enjoy quite a lot going to academic conferences and just spending time with smart people that are not trying to sell you anything. And that's a contrast if you go to a tech event or conferences like Web Summit or even Flash in Finland, to speak about local markets. Over there, everything wants to picture something. Everything wants to sell you something, which is understandable. That's kind of one of the purposes of those events. But at the same time, what's lacking is content of those talks and conversations. Sometimes probably also the environment, that particular narrative in those events. What I've been missing in the last couple of years from those events, the motivation. So why actually trying new things in the technologies? Yeah, what you're trying to do. For academic people, for researchers and developers, sometimes the motivation is to solve a particular problem, which they find interesting. And for business people, it's more, okay, so is this something that's going to bring me investments? Is this something that's going to bring me consumers? So in a way, what's exciting is to combine those things. When the researchers find something challenging in the technology and they can solve these problems, and then these problems can result, these problems being solved can result into an exciting product that's going to attract lots of investment. So for me, exciting is to see those things happening and to see the combination of smart ideas with smart business meeting the smart audience in a way.
On your publication, there's a lot of fascinating articles about AI and new technologies. As somebody who's in this world, but who's also in the world of journalism, I just wanted to ask you, how do you see new technology impacting or disrupting the world of journalism and news in the near to mid future?
If you speak in terms of tools, yeah, there are quite a lot of things happening already. Again, probably somewhere on the background, on the outskirts of journalism that we don't quite follow if we are not deep in the profession or deep in the academic world. For example, you might have heard of the data journalism. And another thing that boosted it recently was the whole movement with fake news and false truth and so forth. And the idea is whether we can give the technology particular functions of journalists, that they can just select particular facts and write very basic stories just out of those facts. It works pretty well with sports journalism, as you just collect the outcomes of the matches, the competitions, and write up the story with just facts. The challenge here is journalism has always been a lot about narratives, about stories, about human approach, about objective, or this can be debated, but still judgments and assumptions which interest the audience. The audience usually comes to media to understand what's happening. Whether they're interested just in, a colorless combination of facts, or with, or more in stories and more probably personal judgments, but at the same time they're personal, they're human. That's already another thing. That's something to be tested, and as far as I can see, judging by the trends in data journalism, it's not the most successful thing in the world with appeal to the audience. If we speak about other technological improvements, AI and big data tools, they help a lot to understand the audience. That's something that I would call know your audience tools. The metrics help a lot and to see the behavior of the audience, which in a way helps a lot to improve the website, the content. I would say new technologies, they help media publications to get closer with the audience, to understand it and to create better products for them. Probably what's missing so far is the input from journalism as such. Probably you've well, I don't know if you follow, but my research is connected with Syrian war reporting, and there have been a lot of interesting, things happening in different parts of the world, in different types of media that try to cover the events there, give some kind of analysis to those events, and there have been lots of mistakes, partially caused by new technologies and social media. Some of the information was faked, some of the news were in a way distorted. That was why BBC, for example, came up with a new approach. They said, okay, so we've done a lot of mistakes, especially with the case of the Syrian war, and we are going to move away from fast news, and just, using anything that comes our way, like social media videos and, stories shared on Twitter and so forth, and we go to slow news. So we take things slow, we'll dig information, we'll try to talk to different experts, we try to show different sides to that, and we'll just take our time to analyze everything and weigh every word that we say. And for me, that's where journalism steps in and kind of slows the technological process down. Yes, it's important, but we still need to kind of keep the quality. And while technologies help us a lot with the quantity and in terms of readership, in terms of traffic and so forth, we still need to think about such thing as ethics and literacy, and especially educating the audience and providing them with the best information, which is not always kind of in the moment kind of information, but certain information and news are developing in time, and we need to show to the audience that the information as such is disclosing slowly. And that's why for me, like, slow news is something that is going to balance the quick development of media boosted by new technologies.
I think that this trend towards slow news that you spoke about will be a very welcome development by a lot of people. I think a large portion of audiences have a craving for some kind of depth and rigor that may have declined a little bit in recent years, that seems to be making a comeback. If you had to give some advice from what you've learned from your work and your career so far in the journalism industry, if you had to give advice to other publishers, maybe who are starting out on their journey or who have an idea for a news product or a website, what advice would you give them?
I would first of all try to encourage them to think about the quality first. They would love to first be a bit, kind of on a hype way. They would like to get a lot of followers, a lot of audience, a lot of traffic. Probably they would like to attract a lot of investments, right, or advertisers and so forth. But I would still encourage them to think about quality first. The second thing that they need to think about is the audience. Who are they making these products for? So, and already from there, they can formulate the right formats, they can formulate the right types of topics that they're going to cover, and probably they will also understand better what they're trying to achieve with the whole thing. Maybe the third thing that I would also encourage them and advise them to do is to be honest. I understand that sometimes you need to kind of show things better in a different light, in a bit more appealing manner. But at the same time, journalism loses its value if it's not honest, if it has some hidden agendas. Even if you, for example, represent a particular brand or corporation or a number of partners, just say that and provide the best quality you can in this particular context, but be honest. Otherwise, for me, that's not journalism, that's more PR. And if you're doing PR, just say that. And if you're doing journalism and you say that you're doing that, then there is no other way. You can't do, part-time PR. And in terms of kind of surviving in the digital age, I would say learn the digital tools, read a lot, network a lot with digital marketing professionals, find the right ones to work with that kind of understand your product, that will understand your audience and will come up with interesting solutions. Because in digital marketing, tools and different tricks and trends, they're dying out very fast. And that's why you need some kind of, professional pillar that would support your journalistic path and support your communication with the audience. That's definitely a must in the digital age. Think about using new technologies tools, something that helps you to understand the audience, track its behavior, and improve step by step the experience with your creation, with your media publication. And in terms of topics, definitely I would recommend testing the waters with technologies, because there are so many new things coming, and probably you've noticed that there are not so many publications that provide valuable information apart from testing gadgets and rewriting press releases for Apple and Google and others. So I guess it's time to be more active in this space, and it's time to educate the audience, to grow the audience for itself. And in the long term, I think it's going to be a good starting point for your careers and a good probably investment of your time, and later probably some kind of good rewards, financial rewards.
Thank you so much for that advice. Where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about you, your work, and your organization?
I would recommend them visiting our website, binarydistrict.com. There you can also find our journal. It goes as journal.binarydistrict.com. And as well, our social media, Facebook. We have Telegram channels, we have LinkedIn. And if you'd like to follow me, just send me requests on LinkedIn or join me on Twitter. Hopefully, you will get some kind of inspiration and something useful for your professional careers.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much, Thomas.
Margarita Katanovic, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Check out binarydistrict.com if you're interested in tech news, what we've been talking about, and you want to learn more about what Margarita and her team do. I've been reading through their articles, some really interesting stuff on there. Also, check out mobiloud.com/blog for my articles based around this and previous episodes. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more great guests from the world of digital media. We've got some great ones lined up. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.